We just finished the couples retreat, and the couples retreat no sooner ended. I stayed here to be with you guys that were staying here while they were over there. But the thing had no sooner ended on Monday than my phone started ringing with people telling me wonderful stories about the couples retreat. Everybody was talking about how great it was. I had many people say it was the best one ever. I probably had 7 calls on Monday afternoon from people just wanting to report in about it. And in each one of those calls, at some point along the way, I heard the same story. Which is, oh, and you wouldn't believe it, but you should have seen Buddy and Patsy cook out there on the dance floor. Man, old Buddy was cutting a rug. They said he was out there doing the jitterbug while he was up there, you know. And then some variation of this came from everybody. After 56 years of marriage, it's so obvious how deeply they love each other. What a wonderful, loving relationship they have with each other. Somebody said to me, I just hope that my relationship can get to that place. Well, I'm smiling inside as I'm listening to each of these testimonies of people because I know 2 things. Number 1, what they're saying is true. And number 2, I know it wasn't always that way. I've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I know there was a bunch of ugly in there. I could stand and tell you all about that today. But I'm blessed not to need to do that because Buddy and Patsy are here with us today, and I would much rather you hear their story from them. So would you welcome Buddy and Patsy as they come to share this morning?
Hey, Granny, you going to help me up the steps? Would you all, you guys, would you patronize an old man, please? Would you look at your wives and say to your wife, you're still the one.
Still the one.
Can you mean it? Thank you.
I was really glad to hear the story about Ruth Graham and how she felt sometimes because that was the truth. In fact, of course, I told this story last night and early this morning also. But the house that we lived in Leesburg for 30 years, we actually built the house, had a porcelain sink with a chip out of it, where I took an iron frying pan one night and was kind of wishing it was his head, but decided I best not do that, and hit that sink with it, and left that sink that way as, I guess, a reminder that you should not do things like that. I would like to tell you it was the last argument we ever had. But funny thing, Debbie Carlton and T-Bone sent me this.
From the family group now.
And from their family group. Right? It's pretty heavy, too. Well, we won't go there. It's hard to believe that it's been 6 years since we had our 50th wedding anniversary. I don't know where the time went. But some of you were there at the celebration. And if you were, you know that when you give a microphone to Buddy Cook, he just automatically starts preaching. And so as Patrick gave him the microphone at the celebration, we're all standing there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to hear the accolades about our marriage, and he's going to do that for me, and I'm going to do that for him. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Marriage is hard." He stretched that word all the way to Waldo, hard. and then he said, and working at marriage is hard. And the 3rd time he said that, I reached over and took the microphone from him. I said, well, it wasn't that hard. And many of you have teased us over the years, him and me both, about those words and what he did. But to truthfully tell you, for about 2 weeks after that, I was angry. I mean, really angry, and I was hurt. And I couldn't understand why it was so hard for me to deal with, because he really wasn't putting me down personally. But I was angry, and I really had to go to God with that because it was hard to deal with. And it was as though all of a sudden, I guess I'm looking in a mirror one day, and it was like a light went on to say, you know, he was really right. Marriage is really hard work. Your Christian life and your walk today is hard work because we're in spiritual warfare. We're in a battle until we go home. And if you're going to fight for your Christian life, you need to fight for your Christian marriage also. And then I remembered way back when we did get married, the differences in the background of the home. I came from a home where I never heard my parents raise their voice at each other. They were touchy-feely people. I love you came easy, and that was the way it was until I was about 13 years old, and somehow or another my mom had become an alcoholic. She rode off one day with someone, and she didn't come back. And I didn't see her again until we were married and I had one child already. And so from that, and what does a 13-year-old girl know about a spirit of rejection or a spirit of abandonment or a spirit of guilt and shame because everyone in town knew who we were, and a spirit of fear? Those were things that were instilled in me as a child, and I took them right into my relationships, into our marriage, and into the raising of our children. Whereas the home he came from, his parents stayed married until they died, but they yelled at each other. And his two sisters, but I mean, it was very demonstrative in the home there. But the words "I love you" were never mentioned. They didn't get to see any affection between the parents there. And so here we go to make a marriage. I'm starving to death for love. And "I love you" is not in his vocabulary at all. Or "no, you don't hold hands out in public." You see, he couldn't give me my needs because he couldn't give what he never got. But do you think two young married people like that understood that? That was a marriage to be destroyed, you know, as far as the world goes, from the very beginning. And it was a rough road. And within a year, we had our first of 4 children. And I remember looking at that little baby saying, "I know one thing, I will never leave you." But that was basically all I knew about little babies. And I will tell you this, 2 weeks after she got there, I threw Dr. Spock's book across a cornfield as far as I could throw it, because she didn't do one thing that book said she would do. Then I found out the guy didn't even have any children, and he was writing books. But I do want to say this with you. At the end of the day, and Pastor Max said this in one of his sermons a few months ago, at the end of the day, whether that day was a 24-hour day, or whether that day was 6 months, or whether it was 56 years, at the end of the day, the love was still there, and we had persevered. And we don't have time to tell you about all the things we've been through in 56 years. Stephen King is going to make a movie out of it one day. But most of you know, Buddy has stage 4 cancer now, and we have been battling this, you know, for a while, and we've persevered through that. But every day is precious, and we don't take it for granted anymore.
Okay, and listen, I like to tell you about the good part, and believe me, there's a lot of good. You know, we were down. Now, I didn't go to the women's retreat. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. But Richard Inks and I, we were down here a few years ago at Daytona Beach, and we were cooking for the women's retreat. Joyce Strang was the guest speaker. Now, I didn't go into the session, but Patsy shared with me that, I said, "What did she speak on?" And she said she spoke on roles changing. And, you know, I thought about that. And, you know, in a marriage, you know, the first years of your marriage, you know, you have one role to play. And then as the kids come along, there's another one. And then the kids grown and go off to college, and there's another one, you know, and this kind of thing. So it's a thing that continues on and on and on. And we have to be ready, and we have to be willing to change as those roles in our life changes. And, you know, and I said all that to say this. Patsy's role in my life, I thought, you know, we had been through about all that we were going to go through. And all of a sudden, she became my nurse, would you believe? And as most of you know, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was a sick puppy. I mean, I was really sick. And I don't think I knew where I was a few days there, but I was sick. She never left my side. She assumed the role of not only my wife, but the one who was taking care of me. So, about 2 weeks ago, I decided that just off, the spur of the moment type thing. I don't know whether you all do that or not, but I'm notorious about doing things like that. And so I was in Publix and I said, I'm going to get my nurse some flowers. And so I take the flowers in, and it just so happened that our grandbaby was in the house when I walked in the back door. And you see this commercial on television, say, moments that are priceless. The look on her face. If we could have gotten it on a camera, we'd pay off this building program here. We'd pay it off because it was absolutely priceless, the look on her face. But we didn't get it on camera. So what I'm saying is, yes, I bring her flowers. Yes, I bring her cards. Yes, I bring her candy, chocolates.
And he
No, my doctor's in the house. Don't tell. Oh my goodness, she's told on me.
Mine too.
And yes, sometimes I even sing to her. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help but falling in love with you. Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. And like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things, oh, they are meant to be. So take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you, for I can't help falling in love with you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has not left the building.